Seems like old times. Seems like new times. Seems like good times. I'm not going to do the Jimmy Walker bit. No way, no how. Greetings, good afternoon. How the hell are you? Welcome to Beyond Ringside Live on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon. Yes, the sun is out, the birds are chirping, and I think I just saw Robin Redbreast spontaneously combust. It would have been so much better if I had not stumbled on that. From the undisclosed location, Studio 35, yours truly, the Magic City Motor Mouth, Fast Eddie Layne, being joined, we're going the gauntlet today, from the Peach State, the promoter, the trivia master, Shane Noles. What's happening?
I'm very excited. This Sunday was the last Sunday without any semblance of NFL football until after Valentine's Day. We made it.
Welcoming in after a very successful run with the Jamestown Tarp Skunks and getting ready to go back beyond the red zone. Ted Guinness, how the hell are you?
I'm wondering if this court has subject matter jurisdiction.
First off, thank you to everybody tuning in through BeyondRingside.com, ProWrestlingRadio.net, Streema, TuneIn, so many different ways, Radio.net, Radio.co. Which is our home streaming site. The QR code that you've seen go up on the graphics from earlier today, if you're not sure what they were supposed to be a subtle hint that it'll take you directly to our the live stream for the station. So for everybody catching on replay, thank you very much as well. Thank you to everybody for allowing us to be a part of your day, your night, and your everything in between. Number of things in play, but since we last convened, I will go around this table and say, what has been the best and worst that you have seen so far this week, Shane Noles?
Best and worst things I've seen so far this week?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and segue into something. The best would be, to me, the Major League Baseball trade deadline. An actual flurry of activity. It still seems kind of weird seeing the Major League Baseball trade deadline being on a Monday, but hey, that's what you get when now you open the season on a Wednesday night / Thursday when you have teams having off days on the weekend. But, of course, the Los Angeles Dodgers acquiring two-time Cy Young winner Tariq Skubal for the rotation. It probably wasn't needed, but was used as a block move for contenders that are sniffing at their heels. My Chicago Cubs decided, hey, we've got 4 starting pitchers that are injured. Let's go get 4 of them by virtue of Kevin Gausman and Clay Holmes and Braxton Garrett. But I also the thing that's caught my mind, also the worst on this, is how the third wild card team being implemented into Major League Baseball, I don't know. It creates a interesting dynamic for each individual club. Are you in or are you out? Meaning, do you think you have a chance to make the postseason? And there's a couple I want to touch on here. The Baltimore Orioles traded Adley Rutschman, their number 1 overall pick just a few years ago, in the division to the Red Sox. You sold it to the fans that were starting over with Rutschman. Now you send him to a division rival and claim we're starting over again. Yikes. Even though Rutschman has declined some in recent years due to injuries, that's still a tough blow. But the big one to me is the Washington Nationals. This team overachieved this season. They were a game and a half out of the final wild card spot. They traded their third baseman, Meade. They traded, goodness, this escaped me here, and Luis Garcia, who combined for 40 home runs. They traded their all-star pitcher, Foster Griffin, to Cleveland with a record of 12-3, and the Nats were 16-6 in games that he started. I just don't know how you justify it. You overachieve with a younger bunch, and then you trade a young guy in Griffin, a young guy in Meade. I mean, how do you sell that to your fan base? So there was kind of an interesting pit in the pendulum there for the Major League Baseball trade deadline for me. And also want to mention this too, because I'm sure Ted will touch on it. As I mentioned, the Red Sox and the Orioles, I understand the Giants trading, but how do you trade in division Robbie Ray to the Padres? That also was a head scratcher.
I mean, with Robbie Ray, he's going to be a 2-month rental for San Diego before he goes free agent. I think really it's more of an FU to the Dodgers If the Dodgers are going to be the Borg of Major League Baseball and just assimilate all the best possible talent they can, then you throw the whole, I'm not going to trade within, division rival. You throw that out the window. And, if you have the pieces that can help propel a team ahead of you to stop the Los Angeles Dodgers or even the New York Yankees for that matter, you do it. You pull the trigger. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of a return from Robbie Ray, maybe a Major League ready bullpen arm, because our bullpen is one of the worst, if not the worst, in Major League Baseball. But hey, it's more of an FU to the Dodgers than any other kind of strategy. I as I see it.
Let me ask you too, Ted. One thing about the Giants, Luis Arias. This blows my mind that he continues to win batting titles every year, and he looks like he's headed to win a batting title this year. They asked him to play second base, a position he hadn't played in a while, and he's been very serviceable. And then he gets dealt. We know that people just seem to gravitate towards the home run, but a guy like Luis Arias used to be valued so much more in Major League Baseball. He would not be on his fourth or fifth team.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, with Arias, he was and probably will go down as one of the top 10 leadoff hitters in Major League Baseball. He's won a few batting titles already, leading the league before he got traded to Philadelphia. And what does he do in his first at bat in Philadelphia? Gets a base hit. He is the prototypical leadoff hitter that if I were to put a roster together, if he was available, he would be my second pick after whoever I could put in the cleanup spot or the 3-hole. He's the kind of guy that doesn't like to strike out, takes it personally, excels in a 2-strike situation, can get on base in multiple ways. And when he gets on base, he can steal bags. He can move first to third with ease on a base hit up the middle. He's a guy that, if Casey Schmidt hadn't gotten injured, I think Arias would have stayed with San Francisco and Schmidt would have gotten traded. But with Schmidt, they had a very difficult time finding a spot for him. He's out for the season now, and when he comes back, he's going to have a couple of choices, either playing second base or the other move that really hurts me is Elliot Ramos going to the New York Yankees. Before Elliot Ramos, the San Francisco Giants had a different starting left fielder every single year since Barry Bonds retired. I believe it was 17 straight years of a different first baseman. Elliot Ramos this year was the first Giant left fielder to start in left field back-to-back seasons. And now we're back to square one again. I like the idea of getting a whole bunch of prospects. It's a team that there's a lot of money sunk in a lot of veterans that aren't living up to their potential, namely Willie Adames and Matt Chapman. Rafael Devers, his production is so up and down that you never really know what you're going to get from him day to day, series to series, week to week. So, I mean, he's not as – plus with his contract, he wasn't an attractive trade partner. I think Willie Adames could definitely benefit from a change of scenery. Oracle Park is one of the worst places for a free agent to sign and have his batting average stay the same. Free agents, when they sign in Oracle Park, their batting averages tend to drop 30 to almost 40 points from their career median. It's because it's not an easy park to hit in, which is why pitchers are so, tend to be so prevalent within this organization right now. Our pitching has been so depleted that, we are now officially in a rebuilding mode. I would not be surprised to see Chapman and Adames moved in the offseason, possibly Devers. that opens up the door for Schmidt to go back to third base, Eldritch to solidly lock down first base. And then you've got a number of prospects down in the minor leagues that are almost major league ready that can fill the holes in at shortstop, fill the hole in at second base, left field maybe, or you go out and you sign a serviceable mid-rate left fielder on a 2-year contract not named Harrison Bader. And then you really sink as much money as you can into building that rotation around Logan Webb, getting a reliable closer and setup man, and then figuring out with what you have in your farm club what your middle of your bullpen is going to look like. Who are your long relievers going to be? Who are your short-term specialists going to be? Who's going to be that bridge guy in the 7th inning to get you to your setup and your closer? You know, right now, this is probably the most question marks I've seen out of a San Francisco Giants team since 1996.
Let me ask you this, Ted. We'll let Eddie actually get back in on the program. Two-part question. Who do you think was the winners of the Major League Baseball trade deadline? And did anybody in the National League do enough to feel like they can absolutely compete with the Dodgers come October?
I think the Cubs answers both your questions right there. I think the Cubs going out and acquiring some very top-tier rotation pieces will give them an edge. Ohtani for the Dodgers, he's just one man. If you can get past him, you can chip away at the rest of the rotation. But he hasn't been Shohei Ohtani this year.
Nope.
And I think if the Dodgers match up a team like the Cubs, that now have that rotation depth, that now have a little bit more depth within that bullpen, I think the Cubs are a team that could take the Dodgers to the limit and possibly knock them out in the DS or maybe even the LCS.
Yeah, and music to my ears coming into today, that Cubs lineup has scored as many runs as the Dodgers. They're looking to sweep them today in Wrigley. So definitely happy times on the north side.
Never thought
Well, Eddie, that's what's on our brain. What do you think of the Major League deadline? Trade deadline.
Actually, I'm going to throw to Ted, best and worst.
Worst thing I've seen this week is the Bella Twins actually wrestling in 2026. The best thing I've seen this week are the back of my eyelids.
A little bit of sleep here and there never hurt anybody, right?
Yeah, just very emphasis on little bit.
Yeah, I saw the story.
And I hate to say my loser on that. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say Cubs were the winners to me overall for the deadline. Losers, unfortunately, the Atlanta Braves acquiring Tyler Mahle from the Giants. Or Mall, excuse me. But then that was it. And I'm like, this is a team that is decimated with Spencer Strider and Spencer Schwellenbach and A.J. Smith shape. They have a lot of pitching issues, too, and the Phillies are coming in the National League East. And I know I've joked with a lot of friends. I was like, the Ted Turner spending days of 25, 30 years ago are long gone. But, man, Liberty Media just doesn't come off anything for Atlanta, which surprises me.
How many games are they where are they standing right now? Are they still in the lead?
Braves are leading the NL East as we are today. I'm going to get you updated.
I think it's 8.5 games.
I thought it was either 8 or 7.5, something. Yeah.
When I looked last night, it was 8.5.
7.5. Yeah.
7.5.
Yeah, 7.5 on the Phillies. And that was interesting to Ted's point. They've been adamant about making Kyle Schwarber a leadoff hitter, and when he hits 50-something home runs a year, I can't argue with it. They put Luis Arias in the cleanup spot last night, where he had 2 hits and an RBI. I'm like, that is so unconventional, but I love it.
They're going to be a dark horse team. Don't sleep on the Phillies.
There are so many questions that go through my mind when it comes down to the trade deadline, because lo and behold, you've got some teams that actually make solid and progressive moves. You've got others that sit back and go, I think we're going to hold. Others that sit back and it's like, we don't know how much we can actually do. And then once again, you've got the difference between major market teams, medium market teams, small market teams. And this is where I'm looking to exactly what's going to happen with the collective bargaining agreement coming out of the season. lo and behold, it's like, and all I hear about the Dodgers spending money left and right, trying to get different, trying to pad the lineup. And it's like, didn't we just complain about the Yankees doing that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and 30 years ago? So it's a case of one major league team does it, the others complain about it. Somebody else gets a chance to do it. The ones who did it before said, "Oh, wait a minute, they can't do that." Why? Because it's something we used to do. They're copycatting us. It's just the logic in play. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Salary cap needed to be in play. Spending cap needed to be in play. And once again, I don't necessarily, how do you have one without the other? How do you have a salary cap without a spending cap? Kind of hard to put in perspective on that one. Best and worst from my perspective, I'm going to go ahead and simply say I will go ahead and agree with Ted on worst. Seeing the Bella Twins actually try to put together a match in 2026 is enough for me to go, bleh. And then unfortunately, one of them gets hurt during the match. That spot against the steps was just, uncalled for, and I'm assuming that based on the way the shoulder positioning was, that Bree's shoulder might have been slightly injured or thrown before that, and that might have been the straw that broke the camel's back. Legitimately, I'm going to go ahead and jump the gun. I said it last night, I'll say it today. That was not a SummerSlam, WrestleMania, or Big Four match in any capacity whatsoever. It really wasn't.
It wasn't, but it served its purpose. Especially, no, hold on. Hear me out.
Okay.
So the first three matches of night one were pretty decently high energy matches. Decently. I didn't say they were great. I said they were decently high energy match. They were 3 stars. They were at least 3 stars.
Okay. That first one, well, I can't say because I did not watch the first match on night one.
It was better than any expectations that I had going into it, and I understand that you have your you hate live thing going on.
I'm bored.
That's fine, Danny. You're bored, and you know what? And that's fair. I'm bored with it too. And to be honest, Io Sky and Liv Morgan are two of my least favorite women wrestlers in any promotion right now, just because they're both boring. But they put on a well-told story throughout their match. The interference there, but it was minimal. And, it was a decent way to kick off the show. The next 2 matches that followed that same pattern. They were good. They weren't 5-star, classics by any stretch of the mean, but they were good. They were not offensive. In any way, shape, or form. By the time you got to that 6-woman match, you had probably 20,000 people that had 3 32-ounce Miller Lights sitting in their bladder, and they all really needed to take a piss. That's what that match was there for. Everybody who needed to piss, there's your match. You need to go get a snack, there's your match. There's your down spot in the pay-per-view before you get into Cody Punk and Oba Brock. So I think it was serviceable. It did its job. It didn't hurt anyone other than Brie, but it didn't help anyone either.
Let's do this. We got 7 left in seg 1, so let's go ahead and tackle night number 1. Bring it on to the table. Liv Morgan defeating Io Sky, 13:35 on the clock, retaining the Women's World Championship, if you can call it that. Guinness, go ahead, take point. You started.
Didn't hate it.
Huh?
I didn't hate it. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. It was kind of a paint by numbers match. You knew going into it, you kind of knew how it was going to play out, and it tended to play out that way. But they executed well. I thought the pacing was good. There was nothing in the match that made me want to, regurgitate. So, I thought it was a decent opener to night one. Didn't hate it, didn't love it, but it didn't make me want to turn the show off.
Shane Noles, come on in. Your thoughts?
It was a nice 13-minute match that felt like I was watching the weekly television product.
Did not watch Night One live. Said it before. I'll say it again. I'm just not a Liv Morgan fan. I believe she comes across like a truck stop lot lizard. The way that they have absolutely not booked her in any capacity up until now, has just been boring. I find her character to be stale, one dimensional. And I just, I, on the other hand, actually do like Io Sky. There's times when she is energetic. She brings a certain, and here's that word again, energy to a situation. And whether she's working ground, working air, she normally can help put on a good match. But was that enough to get me to actually watch? Nope. Click, skip, done. Move to match 2, which is what I did and which is what we're doing. 6-man tag, LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, Royce Keys versus the Bloodline. 11 minutes on the clock. Shane Noles, your thoughts?
Again, it was okay. It was nice. You're going to find out that I wasn't overwhelmed by a ton at SummerSlam this year.
Ted?
I thought it was a good Raw main event. It was fun. But that's about it.
I liked the way that you had different personalities shine during this match, but unfortunately, when some were able to shine, you had others that were relegated, and I genuinely felt that Jacob Fatu was relegated to a secondary status in this match when all eyes were on him this time last year. And then, of course, as everything has progressed in his storyline, his character has regressed. Solo stepping to the forefront, showing personality that everybody knows. Okay, if you follow social media and see Solo Sikoa on that social, lo and behold, you're going to see there is a defined personality and what has that class clown look to it at times. And I really appreciated the fact that he was able to show a little bit more of that. Jay sold it perfectly. The faux anger at Solo doing the eat bit. And then from there, LA picking up the win. You're right. Now, you said good Raw main event, and I'll say good Attitude Era Raw main event. Because over the last 10 years, they really haven't incorporated that much of a comedic side or even an uplifting side. It's either been boring or solid. And at least with this one, you got personalities involved, and I was happy to see that.
Here's my problem with Solo.
Go ahead.
And this new cutting loose, his cut loose persona, this happy go lucky, he is the kind of guy that if he was in high school, you would all want to punch him in the mouth for being just much of an ass. His babyface shtick is not over with me at all. He makes me want to go shovel. He makes me want to shove him in a locker.
Okay. Shane, got a follow-up on that one?
Not at all.
Okay. Just wanted to ask. Gunther Aldis, one-on-one, almost 12 minutes on the books. Ted, you're first up.
I would go so far as to say this is the match of the night. It was a throwback to old school wrestling, the kind of stuff that we got to see which is right before the whole Comania phenomenon in the mid 80s. It was quick, it was hard hitting, it told a great story. All this was blown up 2 minutes into that match, and if he hadn't said anything on interviews, I wouldn't have known it. I would have thought that he had just worked a 30-minute Broadway the night before. It was a treat, an honor, and a pleasure to be able to watch Nick Aldis in that match. And I thought Gunther was the perfect opponent for him. And that was probably as close to a quote-unquote 5-star match on this show as you're going to get.
Shane Noles.
Now, something I can sink my teeth into. I think I said on this very program last week that I hoped that they would go a good 12 to 14 minutes. They accomplished that. How cool was it to see, and we talked about this too, so many of the WWE audience that had never seen Nick wrestle. and he's 39 years old, which one thing I take note of, Nick Aldis at 39 is younger than just about 60% of the main event roster of WWE, and he's been out for 3 years. He looked great. They built a nice, steady pace. Gunther went over just like he should have, but I popped big time for the Cloverleaf on that one.
You and me both. I'll re-clarify, and I'll agree. This was probably one of the most solid matches of the night. Didn't rely too much on trying to go off the top rope or, the tope con hilos and all the other tope suicidos. It was the match made moments matter. If you make it make sense, you're going to get me every time. And that's what they did with this. And that's why I say easily they got me. Folks, tell you what, time constraints in play. Going to go ahead and hit that first break. For those of you catching this on YouTube, please remember, BeyondRingside.com, ProWrestlingRadio.net, the two home sites. The player is there as well as other locations, and the full edition also will be available on our podcast feeds wherever you get your shows. Hang tight for just a moment. Shane, Ted, and myself return. This is Beyond Ringside Live.
I get shows from a homeless guy under I-95. He sells a bootleg.